She saw them first as puppets at her bedroom window, friendly, curious, harmless. But as she grew older, they changed. Sleep paralysis, missing time, surgical rooms that weren't real, and owls she never walked past. Tonight, on Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, Dee Dee Moonflyer shares a lifetime of encounters that never stopped and may have followed her family for generations.
Out in the woods, shadows creep slow. Footprints deep where no man should go. Cold winds howl through hollers and brooks. Whispers of Bigfoot in the way it looks. Myths, monsters, and mullets in the night. Under a pale moon, strange glowing light. Truth's out there like a blade it cuts. Myths, monsters, and mullets run amok.
Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, the show where the strange, the unexplained, and the weird take center stage, and where the people behind the encounters matter just as much as the encounters themselves. We're not just here to talk about what was seen. We're here to understand who saw it, how it changed them, and why it still matters. Before we get started, quick shout out to our supporters over on Patreon. If you'd like to help keep the show independent, ad-free, and unapologetically weird, head on over to our Patreon. You'll find members episodes, early access to all the public episodes, and bonus material you won't see or hear anywhere else. If you've had an encounter or something strange that you've just never been able to explain, I want to hear from you. Email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. That's mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Your experience could be featured on a future episode. It's coming up fast. Mark your calendars. June 6th, 2026. I'll be speaking at the Arkansas Cryptid Fest in North Little Rock, Arkansas. If you're into cryptids, folklore, and listening to great speakers, that's where you need to be. If you haven't yet, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're following me on all your favorite podcast platforms. Give this episode a like, leave a comment, leave us a review. That'll help us with the algorithm, and that's the best way to grow the show. Make sure you check the descriptions on all my episodes. Down below, you're going to find a list of all my favorite podcasts, from Nevermore Hollows, Drunken Cryptids, Chumming with the Spirits, Ghost Gossip, and so much more. And while you're over there listening to their shows, leave them a comment and tell them John sent you. And with that, let's start the show. And welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methenkamp. On tonight's show, we have Dee Dee Moonflyer. And Dee Dee was a guest on my live a few weeks ago, to podcast Time Travel a few months ago. And Dee Dee contacted me and said, I'd love to have the mullet on my show. And I said, I would love for the mullet to be on your show. So Dee Dee, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Twilight Tonic Paranormal Podcast?
Well, it's a paranormal podcast and it's on all the streams. And the paranormal is such a vast thing. It's not just ghost hunting, it goes way beyond that. It goes to spirituality, cryptids, UFOs, just time slips, everything. It all fascinates me. And you can get it Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, all of the ones I never heard of. So,
Yeah, I get notifications in my analytics. It's like, you got
woohoo.
this many views on this, and I'm like, I didn't even know I was on that, but thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, like what?
I mean, I appreciate every one of my listeners, no matter what platform you're
Yeah,
listening to. So,
yeah.
but during our live, we had a lot of fun. We really
Oh,
did.
yes.
But I would like to kind of get more into you,
Uh,
if that makes sense. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Oh, gosh. Well, I was raised in a metaphysical household, in an open mind household. This will kind of lay the whole lay of the land here. My mom was very open. She let us study every religion. We took mediumship classes, and I ended up being a professional dancer for 35 years. But when everything was quiet and I got to retire, I could get back into my roots and finding answers to some of my experiences. So I think that's why I started podcasting and getting to know the community, because all of us podcasters are trying to understand what's going on that's in the paranormal field.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I love about podcasting is what we're doing right here, is getting to know the other podcasters,
Yeah, it's fun.
because we all have kind of a similar path into podcasting, and it usually revolves around something that happened in our childhood
Yeah.
or some kind of paranormal encounter. What was the paranormal encounter that really sparked your interest into the paranormal?
Oh, gosh. Well, oh, gosh. It was probably when I was around 4. And I think we had discussed this last time too. I loved puppets, always loved puppets. And I remember watching Sesame Street and had to go take a nap. And my mom had just bought an easel for me. And I loved to draw. So anything artsy I was about. So I had to go take a nap before I could play with it. And we were in a second story apartment. I remember it because I used to love to look out the window. And I went to take a nap, so I was just sitting on my bed, and 3 puppet-like figures came to the window. And they actually showed me weather patterns, how clouds moved, how storms happen. And that's kind of, I think, opened my eyes a little bit to things around me, even as a young child, because each experience got stranger and stranger as I got older. So, and of course, my mom, if I would tell her something like that, she would say things like, "Oh, it's just part of nature. It's okay. Don't be frightened." But her journey started in the late 60s when she was pregnant with me. She saw a UFO upstate New York between Lake Placid and St. Regis Falls area. And another car behind her also saw the same thing, and they both pulled over. And she was 6 months pregnant with me. And her story never wavered. Even before she died, she talked about seeing that and her experiences with these beings throughout her whole life.
Did she feel like she was abducted at that point?
I don't know if she never said that. She said they all got out of their cars and looked up. And when they looked at each other, it made no noise whatsoever. When they looked at each other, it was gone. She said, like a blink of an eye. It was right there, bigger than life, and then boom, gone.
Wow.
Which changed her whole journey. She was very Catholic, but at that point, she was looking for more. But she always talked about implants and stuff, that she would find little BBs in her legs and stuff. Now, I've never experienced those kind of things she did. So I do wonder about that.
So your mom talked about the BBs or whatever that she was, the
Yes,
implants. Did she like, how does she know that they were implants? Did she like get them out?
I think she just assumed, because when she said she would take them out, they were like little BBs, really hard metal, little teeny BB type rice looking things, she would call them,
So
that
she
felt
did
like
take them out.
BBs. Yeah, she took a couple of them out of her leg.
Wow. Holy
Now, I
cow.
have, of course, I don't know if anybody else had those. I never did, but she would talk about those. And she would talk after that experience, it kind of opened everything for her. Like seeing things move in the house when I grew up. We were never very frightened of anything like that. The biggest time she showed fear was in Wadsworth. I was there and I was in preschool. And it was a beautiful ranch home. And underneath the house, there was a stream. So they were fixing it up to sell it. And my dad was always gone. And one night, me and her would stay up, and I'd help her with the dishes. I thought I was being a big girl, stepping on something, doing the dishes. And we would talk. It was just a really good point in my childhood. And all of a sudden, the house, the lights, if I could talk, went down low somehow, and the whole house was lit up. And it was the weirdest feeling, even as a little girl, because my mom grabbed me and she checked on the baby, which was my brother at the time, and put me underneath a windowsill where we stayed down there for at least, I would say, at least 5 to 10 minutes. The whole house was lit up. And then as soon as it happened, it disappeared. And we did have helicopters in our backyard at that point. And we
So
don't even know what was
what
going
kind
on.
of light was it? Was it like just a white light
Just
or flashing
extremely
lights?
bright white light. That's the only way I can describe it as a kid. That's what I remember. Now, my mom was quite frightened of that light. It came through the house faced the street this way, and then whatever it was in the backyard where the 1 acre was, and it just lit up the whole house.
Was there anything behind the house, like farms or anything like that?
At the time, I think there were some wooded areas, but not, it wasn't rural. It was probably about a 5-minute walk to school.
Okay. So it
So it
couldn't have been
wasn't too far from, yeah.
like a combine or something was working
Yeah,
the
no.
field and its
Uh-uh.
lights come in or something like that.
Yeah, it was a really weird experience, and it was pretty late at night. I wish I knew what time it was that it happened, but it was one of those nights where I got to be special and stay up with mom.
Gotcha. Wow. And you
Yeah.
said it didn't make any noise or anything?
No, there was no noise. It was like a dimming of the lights and bright, and that is probably, I think after that moment, things started to really amp up for my mom in the family when it comes to, like, the spiritual side, UFO side. I always thought as a little girl, I was always afraid of my windows because I always would say the window knockers were coming because I didn't know how else to describe them. And they always would seem to come to the window as a little girl. And then as time went on, they became looking more small and humanoid at that point.
What did they look
And
like originally?
puppets. I thought I was talking to puppets for a long time.
So like something like Sesame Street puppets or
Yeah. Uh, you know, that's the point where I do want to get hypnotized because as a kid, they look like Sesame Street puppets. As I got older, they changed. If I would to have an experience, they changed basically looking like a gray or a short and slender man type of thing. And that's when I would say my spiritual life changed too.
so they could have been like an implant of memory,
Yeah,
to
yeah, the animals, the window people, things
yeah.
coming in and out of the house. Yeah, I really believe that they're really good. Whatever these things are very good at disguises and working with children where they're not afraid of them. I think the fear comes later when you're more of an adult. That's when things change and experiences change.
Right. And we had talked a little bit about this during the live. And I'd like to go a little deeper into
Okay.
that. I think you said it was around 15, 16 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah. My grandparents lived in a small area in New York State called Santa Clara. And to give the people an idea of how small this town was, there was a campground on the St. Lawrence River. My great aunt lived in this beautiful, beautiful yellow old hotel. There was a Catholic church about a block away, and everyone else around me were relatives, basically, in all those houses. And at night, they'd have bears come into their garden. I mean, that's how rural it is there. They had a 1 acre garden. And one night, it was the 80s, of course. And like I told you, you had to really scrape off the eyeliner, guys. We used to like hold a pencil up, light the eyeliner so it'd go on really thick, right?
I
And
still do that.
and you drive your Camaro. So
That's right.
So
I'd
I
always
was
wanted to be in a hairband.
my husband was. Yeah, big yeah, it's sad but true. Oh my
Hey,
gosh, okay.
it's
Concentrate.
okay. The 80s were awesome.
I
And
love the
if he was
80s.
in a hairband and wore eyeliner and teased his hair all up, that was just the thing. It's fine.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. He did all of that. But that
I
night
can't
kinda
wait to meet
changed
him
me for
because now I know this
He's very
about him.
conservative. He's got short hair and everything. Yeah, he's fun.
Okay, let's get back on track.
But I remember it because I wasn't asleep yet. So I'm going into the bedroom and I lay down and all of a sudden I cannot move and I can't move anything. And I'm awake and I'm talking to myself like, why can't I move? This is really weird. You know, that where your heart falls to your stomach reaction. I was like, oh God. And I look over and the bed is here and all the windows were here. And they lived in a trailer, a really nice double wide trailer. In New York State, they can have them on their own land. And it was a really nice one. And all of a sudden, in the corner was this small, bald creature. And I was like frozen in fear. I couldn't move anything. I thought, oh my God, what is that? And I thought to myself, it's a vampire from Salem's Lot. I don't know why that went into my head. I think I might have seen that movie recently at that time. So even though my mom had talked about aliens and UFOs, I just didn't, at 16, I didn't put that together for some reason. It moved, unfortunately, coming toward me. And that's when I broke that paralysis somehow. I flew over my mother screaming and she all the lights went on everywhere because I screamed. My brothers got up, my grandparents in the cottage and back, their lights came on. And it's almost like the energy in the room was even different. It made my hair
Mm.
stand up, and it was a weird feeling. And I was afraid the whole time, but during the day, I wanted to find that being so bad. I mean, my little brother went on journeys looking for this.
So wait a minute. So nobody else in the house saw anything or heard
No,
anything or
nope,
just you screaming?
nope. Just all they knew is my mom said all she said. I woke her up when I basically threw myself over her to the other side of the room, ready to leave.
Now you and I know what the creatures from Salem Lot looks like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
for the younger audience, could you
Yes.
describe like what you were seeing?
Well, it looked bluish gray, dark, dark eyes, and it looked like it was luminescent a little bit because it was so pale. And when it was coming, before it came toward me, it was facing and it was hunched over slightly like this. And then it kind of reared back and started walking toward me.
Oh.
And in Salem's Lot, the vampire is that very pale, tall, bald creature with no hair, buggy eyes, and the fangs. But that's the only thing my 16-year-old brain came up with at that moment because I was like, am I crazy? Now, of course, I'm thinking back now. When I was a kid, I'd see things at my windows. Didn't think anything of them.
Right.
But now it's a whole different thing. Something came through the window, but now it's after me.
Wow.
Where prior to that, it was explaining things to me. So that's
Kind
when,
kind of like um, I hate to say this, but kind of like grooming you
yeah, it was really, really weird.
because it
And
was trying to make you comfortable around them,
yeah,
and
trust
then
them.
the as you got older, their true colors kind of showed. Wow.
Yeah, I'm no longer a little girl now.
Right.
So it
Right.
did switch. And I'm not sure what happened. It was very active after that. I would feel and see things. And I remember one time when we finally moved, we moved to Dayton, Miamisburg, and there were a lot of experiences with things moving in the house and weird feelings. I used to be I would call it, I'm being called to bed for some reason. I had a feeling I had to go to bed no matter what. And once I was in that mode, I'd go to bed and then I'd have sleep paralysis every so often as a teenager after that.
So they changed, and then you changed. Like things started
It,
happening. Like
everything from that point changed. If when I did have visits, I'd started back up again probably when I was 17 or 18. And I left home young, like we did back then. I went to Austin, Texas, and weird stuff started happening at night. And the person I was involved with at the time knew what was going on, and he couldn't explain it. And so I was at the grocery store one day, and I didn't put two and two together until I was probably 17 or 18 between those time periods. So I was at one of the grocery stores in Austin, Texas, and I'm wheeling my cart. And I love cookbooks. I collect cookbooks. I have like hundreds of cookbooks. And I was going to get me a cookbook, and I was really excited because they used to have these magazines, and they had a book section. And all of a sudden, a book out of the blue just fell into my cart, and I was like, "Ah!" I looked down; it was Whitley Strieber's book, Communion, and I was like, I just, I could not describe. I almost was nauseous when I looked at it. I was like, that kind of looks familiar, but so I bought the book. I had to buy the book at that point. It fell in my cart. It
well,
looked
yeah,
familiar.
I'm the same way when I go to the liquor store. If it falls in my cart, I got to buy it.
You got to bring it home. Drive it home in your Camaro.
But that is weird, though. Just
Yeah,
of all books to fall into your cart would be that book.
I know, right? So I bring it home. I look it over, and I'm like, he makes sense. So we decide to go to the ocean. We go to the ocean, and there's like a deserty area we went through. And I remember it because saw my first tumbleweed in Texas. I thought they were the coolest thing. Those in the armadillos, and we were driving, and we just pulled over. It was late at night, and I was sunburned. And all of a sudden, I started to get that feeling again, where I couldn't move, and it was like flight took over. We had
So
to
this
go.
time you're awake, though, right?
I'm awake, and I'm like, "What's going
Oh,
on? Something's not right. Something's coming." I knew something was coming, and I started to get a tingling, really uncomfortable because I couldn't move the way I wanted to, and I woke him up. I said, "We gotta go. We gotta go now. It's coming." And he jumped over the seat to drive, and he just took off. He goes, "Ever since I've been with you, the weirdest things happen." And we had to
wow.
find a gas station. That's when we rested before we drove home.
Wow. So you never saw anything. It was just you felt like
That
something was
night, oh my
coming.
gosh, if I could describe that feeling to you, it was almost like you knew something was coming and you couldn't stop it unless you left.
Wow.
So that was the feeling. And, then then it began that I would kind of know when I was going to have some kind of experience with them. I always felt watched. I always felt like something was coming. And I never, ever, even now, I have a nightlight on. I can't sleep in dark.
Did that start with the incident that happened when you were 16?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A light had to be on. And it still does. I still have a nightlight in the bedroom.
Wow. One of the things I've started saying in my intros is, you know, why these encounters still matter to people, even if
Oh,
it's
yeah.
been years ago, because it leaves a lasting impression. It's a scar, a mental scar that
Yes.
just doesn't go away.
Oh, yeah.
And I think some people, if they haven't had a serious, scary paranormal encounter, they don't understand it. or people on the outside looking in think, how does that stay with you? It was just like a nightmare. No, it's scarring.
Yeah,
It's trauma is what it is.
it changes you a little bit. And after I came back to Ohio, because I left Austin, we broke up, and it was right before a couple years. Well, I'd say about a year before I met my husband. Me and my little brother, we loved to watch scary movies, and we found out there was a Dr. Creep special on. And we were very excited. And we, as little kids, we'd sleep on the floor to watch those movies at night. And so we decided we were going to do that together. That was going to be our brother and sister night. We were going to watch the movies. We were going to sleep on the floor. And we fell asleep. And all of a sudden, my brother just sits straight up, points down the hallway. I look down the hallway, and there's these very tall, linky beings going down the hallway. He was pointing, screaming. I hear my mom get out of bed, and I'm just staring in disbelief. He falls backwards and doesn't remember any of it.
Oh
My
my
mom didn't
God.
see anything, and I'm like sitting there. I'm like, they were in the these things were in the hallway. She's like, okay, okay. She sat up with us for a while, and Steve's like, I don't remember anything. I never saw anything. And still to this day, he remembers pointing, but he didn't see anything.
So he remembers like sitting up.
Yeah, but he didn't. And he pointed straight at them, screaming.
Holy cow.
And
So,
I knew
I
something
wonder
was
if
up at that point.
maybe both of you were, it was affecting both of you at that point, and the implanted memories work better on him. I don't know.
I don't know. I saw them clear as day, and I still, to this day, I question, is like, were we both asleep? And since we're brother and sister, did we connect in a dream state? Or
Or, a lot of this stuff is generational. You said your mom was having this stuff,
yeah,
so maybe it's passed on to both of you. And has your brother since then had any kind of weird happenings?
no, I mean, he has weird dreams and seeing things sometimes. But like I said, I think we're more open for stuff like that because the way we were raised.
Right.
My mom always taught us you don't fear anything because sometimes things feed on fear.
Right.
And she always told us there's more out there. So I think that's why I'm so accepting of it. I think if my mom was a very conservative woman and she was, oh, that's just your imagination. Stop it. That's not real. You're crazy. I think it would have been a whole different ball game, and I might have seen less. But I think because she was so open by saying what you see is valid and it's just part of life and part of nature. So I think that helped my mental state a little bit. But it still was very frightening because if you can't move or you see something, you can't explain it and it's coming at you. That's an issue. That's an intruder at that point.
Right.
It's not just, a spirit walking past you briefly or, a cabinet open by itself. It goes deeper at that point. Something's coming for you. And so you have this constant, why am I so tired? My whole adult life. I have to go to bed. I have to go to bed now, but do I want to do this? So it's an odd thing,
Is
but it's
that like something that happens every night, or is it
no.
just on certain nights?
As a matter of fact, the weird part about my experiences is they go for months at a time and then they stop. In my 20s, it was very active. I'd go to bed, I'd have the same thing happen, the sleep paralysis, and I always saw mathematical equations and star maps. And that sounds really, oh, of course, star maps, but it was like partly explaining between the weather, the mathematical equations, and the maps. And I'm dyslexic, so if they would have been smarter, they might have seeked out someone else for the math. But and I'm
But you
not
hear
saying
about
dyslexics are dumb, but
people with UFO encounters talking about data
yeah,
dumps.
yeah.
Like Like they get it, they get this knowledge, and maybe they were trying with you, but you were too dyslexic to figure it out.
What was really it was really quite interesting because when I was in my 20s, I woke up one time and I was like, "I got nothing, guys. I don't even know what that was." Because I started it was weird because I started to almost get used to it for a short time. Like, "Okay, I'm gonna fall asleep and have one of those dreams," because they never felt like dreams. They felt different. And I remember one night I couldn't move and I was being shown something and I must have broke loose because my husband was in the living room. His best friend was coming in the front door and I flew out of that bedroom and he caught me in midair before I hit the steps. I was running. I was so frightened by what was going on in the other room that I had to leave.
But you don't remember what was going on.
No,
It was just
I
you
kn
knew you had to get out of there.
I knew I had to get out. And I they were both like, "What is going on?" But that continued, things like that through my 20s, and then there was a time where we were trying to have I could never have kids, and I remember I fell into one of those sleeps, and I was so relaxed, and this one really blew my mind a little bit because it actually frightened me. I couldn't move, but I was in a room with just a table, and my doctor was there, and she talked very monotone. "This is gonna be uncomfortable, don't move. It would be over. You're gonna be fine." And it was said so monotone that I couldn't move, and I felt it, and I woke up, and it was like my lower abdominal hurt for, I'd say, about 20 minutes after I woke up. And in the in that state, they put something on my lower abdominal and pressed something, but I couldn't see because I couldn't pick up my head to look. So it was at that point, then I wonder if people aren't just tagged for certain reasons.
Right.
Like why do you keep coming back? What do you want?
I'm going to ask a question, and you can tell me to off if you want. When you say lower abdominal, are you talking um
Uterus.
like I'm trying to word this tactfully. Um did it go
It was
through a
n
natural opening, or was it through the
no, it
okay.
was underneath my belly button.
Okay. That was I was trying to you said lower abdominal. I just didn't know if you were trying to keep it
Yeah,
clean.
no, it
Okay.
was
So,
right below the belly button, which was really weird, and I remember waking up and I was like, "Oh god, that hurts," and
wow.
it and she kept saying, "Now you're okay. Now you're okay." And
So this was so the doctor, it was actually your doctor,
looked just
like
like
a
her.
vision of your doctor.
Yeah, standing right next to me.
Wow.
And gray scrubs. I mean, I remember it looking over at her, then I couldn't move, and she'd be like, "Don't move, don't move." But it was very monotone. It wasn't like you and I talking, how our voices go up and down. It was
Right.
just very flat, and it was very weird. And
And it really does sound like something. If you were going to implant a memory, you're going to use the memories that are already there. Who's somebody
right,
that you trust, your
absolutely.
doctor,
Yeah,
that it makes sense for a doctor to be doing whatever to you.
yeah. And I
So,
trusted
wow.
her. Like, that doctor helped me with so many things. She was an amazing lady. And I think they'd probably know I would flip out if it wasn't somebody I knew.
Right. Right. That's what I was thinking. That makes sense that if you're
Yeah,
going to implant the memory, it's got to be somebody that this person trusts.
yeah,
Holy
yeah. It's an interesting thing because I know it happens more than once, but certain ones stick out in my mind more than anything. the surgery does, the star constellations, mathematical equations, because even I found humor in that. It was like, wow, guys, you do know. And I never most people that have had these experiences have a some of them have a bond with these things. I actually do not want to bond with them.
Right.
Because I think anything that comes at you towards you, to me, is very much an intruder, whether it's what they consider to be the grays, aliens, or a dimensional creature. To me, I wouldn't like want to experiment on one of them. So I just wonder about all of this, and I wonder, and that's why I have my podcast and I talk to people. I wonder why, and how do they hold us in their heads, and do they even think of us as living creatures, or do they think of us as how we would feel an experimental animal is?
Right.
And everybody's like, well, you should know, and no, I don't know, because I've talked to a lot of people that have very spiritual connection with beings. I never felt that way about them necessarily. I always felt like confused, frightened, confused, and at times overwhelmed when I was younger. Now, if I have experiences, they're a little different. Like the time me and my husband, we went on a walk, and it was in January, and it was a warm snap like we have now. So we took a walk that night because it was like 60, and it was a weekend night because we were both off the next day, and we were all excited about that. And anyone or anything that knows me, I love birds, animals in general, but I'm really partial toward birds, and I love owls. I could watch owls all day. Watched them every chance I got a chance as a kid. If there was an owl and I heard it, I'd go hunt for it. And that night we were walking, and there was an owl, a huge owl in the middle of the road. And I got excited. I go, Andrew, look at that owl. He's like, that's huge. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to walk past this owl. Well, we never walked past the owl. We were in the other side of the neighborhood. And we didn't question it until about 2 weeks later. My husband goes, it's like that owl thing. And I looked at him because I didn't say anything to him. I'm like, honey, he goes, do you remember walking past the owl? I'm like, I don't remember it. We never walked past the owl. We saw the owl. I thought we were going to get close to the owl, and we were way past the owl on the other
Wow.
side of the neighborhood. So whatever it is or whatever happened, now I had a witness that experienced it too. It wasn't
Right.
just me saying, this is what I've seen, and everybody going, that's nice, or that's odd. Really, that was quite a dream. And you try to convince them, I'm awake. I'm awake when these happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people
When you
are like,
came in the
what?
live, you told that story about the owl,
Mhm.
and Becca and I were talking afterwards. I spent a lot of time in the woods, camping,
Uh-huh.
horseback riding. I don't think I've ever seen an owl,
Really?
but you hear people like yourself that
I love
have
owls.
these UFO encounters. Owls are they see them everywhere.
Prevalent. And my theory is, I think not not to scare whoever they're seeing, they appear as an owl first at the windows. I remember coming home from dance rehearsal one day, and a little screech owl, and they're adorable, landed right next to me. And I felt so honored. And I walked with this owl. He went from tree to tree, and I went with it. I love owls, and I went in the house, didn't think anything of it. But when I think back, my whole life, I've run into owls. I do love them.
Wow. Yeah, and that's weird to me because, like, where we lived, um, my family's farm,
Mhm.
I would go back there and just camp, by
Mhm.
myself or with my buddies and stuff like that all summer long. And then
Yeah.
when we'd go down to Southern Ohio horseback riding, in foothills of the Appalachian Mountains,
Yep.
and I don't ever recall seeing or hearing an owl.
That's weird.
Now, well, maybe they took those memories from me.
They could do that too, apparently. I'm sure if any of us could do hypnosis, which I'm really considering at this point, um, I'm sure we would recall a lot of memories
Yeah.
that we don't remember.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure, um, with each experience I have, every time I dream I'm having any kind of surgeries, I often wonder if it's not them or a dream, because 'cause I've
But
had
you
dreams
have you
before.
have dreams about surgeries, like, all the time?
Once in a while, like, if I hurt somewhere, I dream of a surgery, and I'm like, "What is this?" The other night, I dreamt I was getting my eyes worked on. I'm like, "What is this?" It's like, "Stop."
I don't remember. I'm sure I have. I'm sure everybody has had those dreams of, with
Yeah,
the doctors or whatever, but I don't ever remember, like, a surgery or anything like that. Is weird. I think you're being
it's
abducted.
weird. Well, they need to stop. No. It's
Maybe you need to, like, tape an air tag to yourself, like, on your back or something,
I
and
wonder.
then I was gonna say hide it in some place, but that's I'm trying to keep it PG. Um,
Well, you hear people having all kinds of probes. I've never experienced anything like that, and I've been real upfront about the whole thing. S Everything that I've been through, I hear similar stories. But when it comes to the probes, like the anal probes and all of that, that is one thing I've never experienced with
right,
them. And I've never experienced me seeing children. Like some
right.
women will say they'll be abducted and they saw what they thought was their child. And I
Or
think,
I've heard people talk about they 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 have this dream and they actually give birth and raise a child, and
mhm,
then they wake up and, like, it was like, wait a minute, what happened to my kid?
yeah,
So
I've
I don't know.
never had those experiences like that. Mine have always been, I don't know, I would say I don't call them mild because they're so vivid and the memory never leaves. I'll probably be set telling the same stories till I'm in my 90s because to me, they were very real. Um, some were frightening and some were just really wacky. Who sees 4-year-old sees 4 puppets on a second story window? Even as a kid, I would ask them, How are you getting up here?"
And what do
And
they
no,
say?
never answered. They're like,
Wow.
let us show you this, let us show you that." And it was done in a childlike way so I could understand.
Were their voices kinda like you'd hear on, like, Sesame
Yeah,
Street or something?
very much so when I was little. So
Wow.
I really trusted these things and I was never afraid of them. I always wondered why they were in the window and they didn't come in, which probably better they were on the outside. But
Right.
and they might have been in there and I wouldn't have known. But as a child, like I said, it was a completely different story. But as a little girl too, I also slept with a rosary and a Mother Mary statue next to my bed because I was always afraid of sleeping. I was
Yeah.
always afraid of the dark.
Did you ever, while you're having one of these episodes of paralysis or whatever,
Mhm.
you hear sometimes people say that if they say the name Jesus, that it um, breaks the spell or whatever you want to say.
I always said Hail Marys when I was little.
Okay.
There's something about Mary, the Virgin Mary, when I was little that comforted me very
Right.
much, probably because she was a motherly figure. I would often say that now I didn't always break the paralysis, it made me calm down.
Right.
Um, I'm trying to think of the times that I could break. When I did break out, it was real abrupt, and I'd always end up running out of the bedroom.
Mhm.
So my fear kicked in most of the time. Um, but that paralysis and that dreamlike state also helped me through things. In 2004, my older brother passed. And there were warnings everywhere, spiritual warnings with him before he passed. Our garage door would open at 3 in the morning for no reason. Our doorbell would ring. Andrew would hear somebody come up the steps. He even grabbed a baseball bat one time and went down the steps thinking somebody was in our apartment, in our house. And it was in Dayton, about 2 blocks from Carillon Park. So you know which area I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And this kept happening. Well, 6 months after that, my brother passed. My mom found him, and we were real close. I've always been close with my brothers. And then I went to bed, and I had that same feeling, I have to go to bed. And for over a month, I dreamt that me and Dennis, my brother, we were walking around the block talking and talking every night. That was my dream. And then we'd end up where grew up in Miamisburg in the same apartment. And he looked
Wow.
at me and he goes, you want to feel like, you want to know what it feels like when I died? And I was like, yeah. And he took his hand and just hit my chest. And I flew into this lighted tunnel and I got sucked right back in. And then the next night I had a dream and we were together. He cried on my shoulder. He pulled his head up and he was yawn, really yawn. And he goes, I'm done. I can go now. And I didn't dream about him like that anymore. But
Holy.
those dreamlike states that I had as a teenager, I think helps me now see things like that, hear things like that. So it almost was like, as horrifying as the visitors might be, for some reason it opened other doors for me as well, as oddly as that sounds.
Actually, no, it doesn't, because most people, when they have paranormal encounters, if they've had ghost encounters, usually they've
Mhm,
had something else, whether it's cryptid or UFO or,
mhm.
something like that. It
Yeah,
once you come to that realization and you know that the paranormal exists, it opens you up where you start seeing the things that have been around you the entire time. You just didn't
mhm,
realize that they were there.
yeah. And that dreamlike state, every time someone close to me passes, sooner or later, I have that dreamlike state with them again.
Really?
So, yeah, with my mom did not visit. She died in 2019 until, gosh, about 3 months ago, and it was a hilarious dream, but I knew I wasn't dreaming. I dreamt about it. You know that yellow '70s color that phones used to come in?
Yeah.
Telephones? Well, I was having one of those dreams where I couldn't move, but I was in a dreamlike state, and there was this yellow phone, and it rang, and I picked it up, and I go, "Hello?" And she goes, "Niecy, Niecy, never be afraid to die. It's awesome." Click. Not the message I wanna hear. I wanted to hear her say, "I love you, I miss you." It was like, "Never be afraid of dying. It's awesome here." I click. That's the how she came to me. I was like,
It was that her
it was her
personality in life.
voice. It sounded like she was at work, when she was in a rush to tell me something and she had to go somewhere. That's what it sounded like.
But I mean, would that have been like,
Oh, yes, absolutely. If she
it,
could find a way to communicate, she'd do something like that.
okay. Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah. So
I've had a lot of people come on the show and they talk about being visited by dead relatives or whatever.
mhm,
And part of me would would like that, but another part I don't know if I would want that because, and maybe it's just my analytical mind
Mhm.
that I can't dwell on things. If like
Right.
people that have passed in my life, um, it's not that I'm heartless, but for my own sanity, I have to push that away.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I don't know if I would want to be visited like that. And maybe it's just selfishness on my part.
No, no. Actually, you know, when these happen, I don't expect them. When I want them to happen, they never do. That's what I tell people. It's like, I didn't ask my brother to visit me. It just happened. And the dream felt like before the visitors come, it's almost out of body, tingling sensation. And that's the only way I could describe that to people. What is it that these beings do? I wonder if they do open our mind up a little bit and we don't realize it. And I think it's probably happened to everybody, maybe more so to people that families that they've been studying for years. But I bet you everybody that we run into every day probably has had an experience at some point in their life.
And I agree with you because you'll get to talking to people, and I don't know if you've run into this. I'm sure you have. People find out you have a paranormal podcast,
Oh, yeah.
and at first it's like, you really believe in that stuff? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I do.
Yep.
And they make their little jokes when you're around other people, and then a little while later, like, well, there was this
Yeah,
one time.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
I think most people have something at least weird that they can't explain,
absolutely. Yeah.
and you know they always wonder if it was that
Mhm.
paranormal. And I think that if they would just realize that a lot of these things are, they would start seeing more.
Yeah. And watch your sleep too, because, in those states, you can see a lot. And that's when a lot of experiences happen. People will like say they can't move. Sleep paralysis is one thing, or they wake up the same time every night. Watch those because sometimes there's something there that you're not realizing. And it doesn't always have to be something bad. Of course, being in the paranormal, we like the spooky stuff, but actually, if this happens to everybody, is it bad? Or is it something we get to experience, or is it something we all experience and some of us, whatever medication or thing they're using, remembers more of it because we have a high tolerance for what they're giving us. I don't know.
Yeah, I've had this conversation in the past. A lot of people are very quick to think if it's paranormal, it's evil.
Oh, absolutely not.
But I'm gonna bring up. I had an episode called "The Paranormal Bible," and we talked about spirituality and the paranormal that is in the Bible. Not all paranormal just means outside the normal.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes,
something
absolutely.
science hasn't explained yet. Um, if you're a Christian or you believe in God, His miracles are paranormal.
Mhm.
It doesn't make them evil.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah.
you know, when I hear people say, "Oh, that's a demon," or anything that they can't explain, "Oh, that's demonic," it's not necessarily.
I know.
Could it be? Absolutely, but not everything paranormal is demonic.
Oh, no. Mm-mm. And, it's like when me and my husband moved into our 1938 bungalow here, we have a ghost cat. We both saw it. We love the kitten. We
Does
saw
it
it.
lit? Do you have to clean the ghost litter box?
No, thank goodness, because it just walks through the walls. No. It is funny though, because he thought I brought in an actual cat, another cat.
Really?
I saw it, like, I was painting, and I saw it, and I thought a cat got in the house, and then I'm, like, sitting there, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, that cat just went through a wall. Okay." So I'm like, "I'm really either tired or I've been sniffing the paint." I and, even though I've had so many experiences in my life, I still question all of them because, sometimes it's just hard to believe if something happens right in front of you. And Andrew was painting the other side of our living room, and I hear him go, "Honey, did you let a cat in?" I go, "What color is he?" "Black and white." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Um, I thought you brought a cat in and then it just disappeared." I'm like, "That's our ghost cat."
Or I want to know what brand paint you were using.
So you can have some.
Well,
I'll
either
look it up.
that or just to make sure that I'm allergic to cats. So I don't want a ghost cat in my house. So
Just as bad.
and I have some rooms that still need to be painted.
I'm sure I got it at Lowe's. I might have a can downstairs. I'll bring it to you.
What color is it? Catnip.
Catnip. What was it? Peachy something? You can tell we like dark colors in our house.
Yeah.
But I mean, every experience I've ever had, I always try to explain it to myself first. Even when I was 16 and my mom, 16 was a big year for me, apparently. But we lived in Miamisburg and Dunaway Apartments, and you could see the mound. You remember the Miamisburg mound? From our back porch in the winter when all the trees lost their leaves. And we were sitting there talking, and a book came up from the bookcase, levitated, and fell. And me and my mom were in shock. Even it was a lot to shock my mom. We're talking a lady that was into automatic writing, Edgar Casey, you name it, mediumship. She did all of this stuff. And we're sitting there and we watch this happen. We don't move. The book falls with a page open. My mom was so taken back. She had the book, closed the book, and put it back in. And the problem was, I think it was trying to tell her something because that book, I bet you'll never guess what it was. It was the Bible.
Oh, really? I was going
Yeah,
someplace else. I was thinking something like um
a cookbook. There
Carrie
was
or something.
no,
Stephen
it was
King.
it was the Bible that her grandparents gave her or something.
But it was open to a
So
page that she
was open to
saw and
page,
she read.
and she wouldn't read it. She was so frightened of the whole thing. She closed that book, put it back in the bookcase, and never looked at the page. And she goes,
Oh,
"I can't."
okay.
About an hour later, she goes, "I can't believe I did that. It was open to a page." And my mother was very open-minded. Like, she took us to every kind of religious celebration. So if we did not want to be Catholic, we had to choose one that was kind and gentle. She didn't care. If it was spiritual for the better good, she didn't care. So she was always open, but for some reason that really scared her to see that physically happen. And that's one of the memories I have with my mom.
It makes you wonder if that wasn't one of those good paranormal encounters and
Oh,
it got
I'm
ignored.
sure, yeah. Oh, I'm sure because whenever she had an experience, she was never frightened of it. A few times she was. But I think that was so extreme that we both saw that.
But I've also, um, longtime listeners of the show, um, Rod from Lodge Tales.
Mhm,
Um, we had a very spiritual conversation one night on the show, and one of the things that he said, because I asked him, I was like, "Well, how do you know the difference between an evil spirit and a good spirit in their culture?"
sure.
And he said, and I kind of like this, is how you feel. How does
Oh,
it feel?
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
maybe since she felt that way and normally wouldn't, maybe it wasn't a good paranormal encounter.
I don't know. That apartment had a lot of things happen. in that apartment. So, you know, she was a very unique lady, I think, for being in the 80s, because we didn't get to talk about this in the 80s very
No.
much. You don't go, she'd be like, you can't talk about it in school, honey. You can't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't something that was brought up at the dinner table at my house. I can tell you that.
Yeah, my house, yes, but but I was really lucky that way because both sides of the family had relatives that did something in spirituality. My mom, her grandfather read tea leaves, played the violin, and talked about the imps in the barn. He was a French Canadian, and a bootlegger and very Catholic, and he did all that stuff.
Wow.
Her grandmother would do mediumship stuff, and then on my dad's side, his great aunt, was in the Ozarks in Arkansas, and she was a medium, and people would come from all over and get a reading from her, and they'd bring her these pretty little makeup compacts, my grandma said. And she had a whole bunch of these really pretty compacts, and that's what she wanted.
Wow.
And she did, herbalism and stuff like that. And so I think my family was very open, and
You
I
got it
think
on
that's
both
what,
sides, though. I mean, you got a double whammy on that.
yeah, I think that's why I was not frightened like most people would have been. I think because my mom always said that was normal, natural. The experience at 16 in New York with the humanoid, that still bothers me because I
Right.
cannot understand it till this day. And they've never appeared to me like that again. Only the tall ones did, but the tall ones were kind of strange because it looked like they had robes on. It was just a weird experience.
No,
And I saw 'em.
back to that story where your brother was pointing. Um, what kind of like you said that they were walking down the hall? Were they walking to you or away from you?
Toward us.
Could you make out facial features?
No, that was a
Okay.
weird thing. Um, I could make out they were tall. I would say 5'8", 5 to 6 foot. There were 3 of them, and they had type of robes on, and they were just coming towards us. I don't know where the robes came from. I to this day, I just don't get it. We had the living room light on. There was no hallway. So when they were walking, they had this glowy thing, almost almost like a light to their skin.
Wow.
It was really odd. And he pointed and I stared and screamed. And then he just fell back with no memory.
Wow. And then they
And
just disappeared.
I always watch my animals at night too. If they're
That
more restless than usual, I have a funny feeling something might happen.
right.
So I kind of use my environment as a tool. Birds are highly sensitive. I've noticed toward anything that's not supposed to be in the home. So I watch my birds particularly and my cat, but birds are like so sensitive. People have no idea. They're so sensitive towards weather, energy, everything. Before it rains, she stops everything and she sleeps because I think she gets that heavy feeling like we get. So
Uh-huh.
she's great for weather. When she freaks out at night, I freak out at night.
Because of storms.
She'll freak out for no reason sometimes, and I know birds have night terrors and stuff, but I kinda watch my birds because they're kind of like an alarm system for me,
Really.
and my animals in general. If they're restless at night, I might have an experience that night
Wow.
of some kind.
I don't know if I'd like that either.
Yeah, they're kinda like
'Cause
little
then you got
predictors.
that anxiety that, "Oh, shit,
Mhm.
something's gonna happen."
Yeah, and the interesting thing is there are books about sleep paralysis, but there is a book, I think it's Samantha Fox, The Awakened Dreamer, I think it's what it's called. And it's people that use their sleep in dreams. You have like different kinds of dreams. Some dreams feel like dreams, when you're walking through Kmart eating a lollipop and wearing like your grandma's underwear or something, one
That's
of those
Saturday night
dreams.
for me.
Right, yeah. You put some special stuff in your mullet and walk
That's
around
right.
Walmart. And then the other dreams feel like you're having a conversation and you feel aware. Those are the dream states that this stuff usually happens.
Right.
Other than that, I'm just a normal nerd that loves the paranormal and, has a
And
day
that's why
job.
we get along. We're
Yeah.
both nerds.
Oh, big nerds.
Well, Dee Dee, I tell you what, I love having you on the show. I really
It's
do.
good to see you.
Yes. Why don't you tell everybody one more time where they can find you?
All right. It's Twilight Tonic. Gosh, I can't talk tonight. Twilight Tonic Paranormal Podcast. And you have to put paranormal podcast because every Twilight thing will come up. So, I'm Gen X. No sparkly vampires for me. Um, but I'm on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all of the streams, SoundCloud. You can reach me on Facebook. Feel free to email me at boxingswan@gmail. If you have a story to tell, me or him, please get a hold of us. We love to hear your stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dee Dee, thank you for coming on Miss Monsters and Mullets.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
We're going to meet up at Monster Pizza.
Yes.
We're going to make
I
that
like
happen.
Monster Pizza. Yes, we are. You have a good night.
You too. And if you've had a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Talk to you later. Gotta go. And that's it for tonight. Make sure you're checking out the description on this episode for any links associated with the guest. And if you've had a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Good night, everyone.
Shadow in the pines lurking in the dusky air. Bigfoot stomps through the woods like he don't care. Lights in the sky flash green then blue. Aliens descending with a secret or two. Whispers in the breeze, cold fingers down your spine. Ghosts in the graveyard, twisting through time. Eyes wide open in the dead of night. The myths and monsters giving one hell of a fright. Oh, Miss Monsters and Mullets podcast, spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methenkamp's fiery soul. He takes us where the wild unknown flows. Oh, Miss Monsters and Mullets podcast, spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methenkamp's fiery soul. He takes us where the wild unknown flows. Down by the bayou, you hear a raspy growl. Swamp gas glowing as the coyotes howl. A UFO